Sup, bro? So with the new patch, we got a new unique for Rogue. It's called the Eaglehorn, and it's for penetrating shot builds. And I was pretty excited when it first announced because penetrating shot is probably one of the weaker builds right now in general for rogues in terms of efficiency. So getting a unique for it, specifically for it, was, you know, sounded pretty cool. So when I saw the unique affix, I was like, hey, that actually sounds like that can be that can work pretty well. I did find this during stream last night, and I played about an hour and a half of it, and I did a lot of testing with it as an analytical player, as a casual player, and even just some mini golf stuff, just because I wanted to do some really cool trick shots. So I have quite a bit to say about it, and I'm going to give you a breakdown on if this unique bow is actually worth using for penetrating shots. So let's actually talk about the stats first. So we look at critical strike chance on the bow. If you don't get a high value with this, it's kind of mediocre. It's an okay stat, not a great stat. We have high crit chance anyways towards end game, which is when you're going to find this unique. So by the time you get this unique, you're going to have pretty decent crit chance. So it's really not that great of a stat. Not terrible, could be worse. But now we have physical damage, and this is kind of where the first red flag kind of comes in, because with most penetrating shot builds, you want to use imbues, like multiple imbues, because the imbues with penetrating shot is really powerful. So the physical damage does not buff skills that are imbued. Okay, so that's kind of an issue there. I mean, you really wouldn't want to do physical penetrating shot. It just doesn't really make any sense. So in my opinion, this is a dead stat on the bow. Now we do have vulnerable damage. Obviously vulnerable damage is good. Damage to elites obviously is good too as well. So we have two good stats, and we have to kind of wonder if the unique affix is enough to be able to carry the two not so great stats or the one really dead stat here for you to actually want to use. So reading the unique affix itself, it's got a 30 to 80% chance to fire an arrow that bounces off of walls and scenery. Hitting enemies from behind with penetrating shot will make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. So just to clear up any sort of misconceptions or anything that any questions, you do not get an additional arrow, even though it sounds like you would, because it says chance to fire an arrow. So you would think, okay, well, maybe you shoot penetrating shot, you get an additional arrow, it bounces. Right? Could be, right? Of course, that's not the case here. It's just the main arrow. You have a chance for the main arrow to bounce, and that main arrow can bounce, but with the trick shot aspect, these side arrows do not bounce. So this only applies to the main arrow. Okay. So if your trick shot arrows hit any corridors, any walls or whatnot, it's not going to bounce as well. So it's just the main arrow itself. So we're going to actually go somewhere. So just so therefore you can get a display of how this works, I'm just going to kind of shoot over here because I know my head's in the way. So we're going to shoot kind of this direction here, or up and down. So I'm going to shoot down to just kind of see, gives you up, no ricochet there. There we go. So how cool that was. You get all these different bounces, and of course each, the arrow itself gets the full value of whatever you shot with this. So as long as you can get a bounce to happen, the potential of this particular arrow is quite a bit high, right? So now that you see how that works, we're gonna actually go and buy some things. We're gonna come down here. We're still in pretty tight corridors. And let's see if we can find something to fight here. Oh, nope, not that. I think we got an event here coming up. Cool. All right, so here we go. So we got a little bit here. I'm shooting some things, trying to line up against the wall a little bit. Okay, it didn't come back there, but there we go. That didn't happen there. All right, so didn't get many ricochets to happen there. We're in a slightly more open area now. So see, that was a cool trick shot. So that's like me playing mini golf. Love that. Oh, still didn't get a ricochet. That didn't happen. All right, so just that one cool trick shot that you got there. But yeah, when you hit against a wall or a corridor as you're trying to line things up, it's a really cool effect. But I think as you starting to see me do this more and more, I think you can start to see where this really falls off, right? So if I'm not in tight corridors, guess what? I'm not really getting much value out of this unique at all. Like this isn't really even that open of a space, right? And even though it's not that open of a space, the arrow is not really traveling far enough to hit some of these walls that are actually here for me to get any bounce effect. And the arrow itself is really thin, so really getting it to come back and hit additional times or whatnot, or pierce additional times, is actually quite difficult to do. And it also seems like the arrow itself has a cap on the distance. So even if I do shoot and I bounce it off a wall here, it won't continue to bounce here and then bounce down here and then bounce back up there. There is a cap on the distance. Okay. Oh, cool trick shot. Saw that. Now that's fun. That's fun to do, right? Practical, not really, but fun as hell to do, right? So anyhow, we're going to leave this area here. But at least you have an idea of how this actually works. So how would you use this in a practical scenario? Well, you wouldn't use this for Helltide because there's too many open places, right? So Helltide is really not great because it's situational, obviously, because you need walls, right? You wouldn't do this for Whisper farming. Why? Same idea, right? You wouldn't do this for zone quests. Same thing. So outdoor environments, not good for. Dungeons, depends, right? You need dungeons like barracks, you need dungeons like the prison, maybe some caves. And I say maybe just because it just depends on the layout and if you can, you know, get the bounces to kind of happen the way that you want. The caves aren't bad for it, but barracks is kind of where it's at. So now you can kind of see where I kind of have issues with this said unique, because it's niche, it's situational, right? And because it's situational, how do we suggest this? How do I suggest this or recommend this as a unique that you go for? And that's where I have a hard time for it. Now, if you're going to be doing any nightmare dungeon pushing, for sure, this can be good to use, because you can, you know, you're fishing anyways. You're trying to find the right sigil to push with anyways, and so you're going to be looking for barracks and things. So for nightmare dungeon pushing, this is actually a really good option, because you can go and you can hide behind doors, you can bounce off, you know, things off of other things. So this bow has a use for that. But outside of that, that's kind of really it, and that's saddening, because nightmare dungeon pushing is like a very small part of what you actually do in this game and whatnot. So I was hoping for a unique that's going to make pin shot more valuable in general overall. But anyhow, this is a barracks. So let's say you're pushing. So here's the best case scenario for this unique, where you see enemies right there. I might want to sit there and fire an arrow over here. Oh, I actually missed that. So I can hit the corner there and maybe hit some targets. Yep, there it is. I did it right there. So I hit the target over there safely and kind of kite back, as you can see. And because of the limited distance of the arrow and the tight corridors, this actually works out pretty well, as you can see. So I could probably shoot in here safely and like get a couple of bounces to happen. So this is the best case scenario usage. And unfortunately, I think this is really the only realistic case scenario usage for this particular unique. So yeah, sorry rogues, I wish we kind of had something that was going to really make pin shot shine in general, but unfortunately we do not. If you do not plan on doing any pushing with this particular unique, you can probably just save one just in case they make any retroactive changes, and if they do, good for us, I guess. But in the meantime, there is one small perk, and it actually sells for pretty well. So if you're not planning on doing any high tier nightmare dungeon pushing, the sell value is just as good as wind forces. So you have another unique that can give you a pretty decent amount of gold in case that you're low on gold and you ever see bows drop. You just basically go straight to the vendor and you have you get a pretty nice chunk of change there for that. But that's my analysis on the Eaglehorn. I would not use this over a typical crossbow or even a good rare bow with a two-hand aspect, because it's just going to be, well, quite a bit better than what this can offer in a realistic scenario. So anyhow, appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully Blizzard would take a look at all of our unique bows, because they all, you know, are pretty awful. I would say the Eaglehorn probably has the most potential, but again, very niche use case scenario, and definitely a bit disappointed, but it is what it is. And thanks for watching. I will see you in season 1.